Okay, when you're ready.
Anyway, good evening, everyone, and welcome to this meeting of the Planning Committee. Recording, filming and broadcasting. The Town Council records all public meetings held in the council chamber. Under new legislation, members of the public are able to record, film and broadcast from a designated area. Please be aware that the meeting may be recorded and might be filmed or broadcast. Moving on to the agenda. Item 1, apologies for absence.
Yes, we have two. So we have Councillor Kirsty Wen, who is away on holiday, and we have Councillor Beth Fisher, who is substituting for her, and also Councillor Fiona Gaskell, who is also away on holiday, and we have Councillor Jill Haynes, who is substituting for her.
Thank you. Item 2, declaration of interests. Anybody have any declarations of interest that wish to register? Thank you. And moving on to the minutes of the Planning Committee held on the 7th of October 2025. Anybody have any comments or observations they wish to register? People be content if we declare this a true and accurate record.
I don't know, are we allowed to do that? Because I don't, oh, Vicky, you were here, which I think maybe are they a true and accurate record?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm happy to agree with you if they are. I definitely.
I mean,
okay.
As far as I'm aware, my brain is out of a scroll, but I think I can remember every incident. But
So they were approved by Kirsty the following day. So
Yeah.
oh, if there were any inaccuracies, then you would have asked me to change that.
And Julia signs.
Thank you.
Chairman's report, emergent items. I'm not aware of the chairman's report.
No, we have neither of those, Chair.
Right, thank you. Moving on then swiftly. Item 5, public questions in accordance with standing orders 22 and 23.
No, none have been received, Chair.
Item 6, letters of objection. Anything we've got?
We've not received anything directly to the Town Council, but I do have some letters of objection that I'll draw attention to when it
We'll
comes to
scoop that up in the next item. So, right, item 7, applications registered weekend in 3rd of the 10th 25 and 10/10/25 on pages 8 to 14. Right, you could take it. Take it from the top then. Reference F/2025-1643. Harpenden East proposal, 2-storey rear extension, single-storey rear extension, and attic side enlargement at 60 space.
Okay, I will indeed. Hi, Sam.
We formally started,
We have, yeah.
sorry about that,
Did you need to have the agenda?
if possible.
There we go. Right, so 60 Station Road, property is the right-hand side of a pair of semi-detached properties, both of which have accommodation in the roof space. The attached semi-detached property appears to have extended in a similar way at ground level to what is proposed in this application, along with the first floor rear projection over a ground floor element, similar to what is proposed in this application. Number 62 Station Road, which is the side to which the proposed dormer window extension is facing, also appears to have a side dormer element. There are no side windows proposed in the dormer to cause overlooking number 62. The design looks to be in keeping with the host dwelling, which is locally listed in the conservation area, with no detrimental impact on the neighbouring properties, and I've said consider no objection, subject to the application deemed compliant with policies 85 and 87 of this strip.
Yep.
Yeah.
Anybody in the immediate list of interest? Have concerns?
Yep, no. Now I've looked at 85 and 87 and subject to those being carefully considered. No,
Right,
well,
okay, happy with that then? Yeah, we are indeed. Right, next one, F5, 2025, 1609, Harpins and East, direction one bedroom detached dwelling house at 18 Rannon Way, Harpenden. Got quite a history, so we'd like to take
It does, yeah. So I'll read out first of all my officer observations, but I have got two letters of objection which were on the district council website that I will draw attention to in due course. Planning permission was granted in 2017 for a 3-bedroom detached property which covered the footprint of part of the rear garden of 16 to 18 Manland Way. This application is for just a single bedroom bungalow on the disused garden land to the rear of number 18 Manland Way. Proposed bungalow's garden appears to be accessed from the rear but sits to the front of the property. This appears to be done to ensure the building line of the property does not sit further forward than that of number 2 Barton Close. There is one parking space. The property is subordinate to the surrounding properties and it appears to sit well on the plot. The construction of new bungalows in the town is welcomed in the HNP, not conservation area and no tree works. And I, at this point in time, said no objection as my recommendation. And I have got from online today 2 objections, one from 16 Manland Way, which sits ultimately kind of to the side of the proposed plot. And in brief, they are objecting in relation to inappropriate scale and design and character. Proposed single-storey, 1-bedroom dwelling is entirely out of keeping with the established character of this part of Manland Way and Barton Close. The local streetscape is defined by substantial detached and semi-detached family homes, typically 4 or 5 bedrooms set within generous plots with landscape gardens. By contrast, the proposed dwelling would appear cramped, incongruous and wholly inconsistent with the prevailing pattern of the development. Its scale and form would erode the spacious character of the area, setting an undesirable precedent for piecemeal backland development that would fundamentally alter the established suburban character of the street. Objection in relation to overdevelopment and poor use of the land. The site is a small, constrained section of garden land that was never intended for residential use. Proposed footprint leaves minimal amenity space and fails to meet the standards expected for private outdoor areas. The scheme represents overdevelopment of an undersized plot, prioritising short-term financial return over quality design and community coherence. Harms the neighbourhood amenity. Construction of a dwelling in this location will result in a significant loss of privacy and visual intrusion for neighbouring property, particularly for number 18 Manland Way and the adjoining homes. Positioning of the building and any associated boundary treatments will overlook or overshadow existing gardens, adversely affecting the enjoyment of private outdoor space. Additionally, the introduction of a new residential unit at the end of an existing garden would create noise, disturbance and potential access conflicts inconsistent with the quiet residential environment currently enjoyed by the surrounding properties. And then concern over the access and servicing concerns. It is unclear how safe and practical vehicle and pedestrian access would be achieved without detriment to the neighbouring land. The plot appears to rely on limited or indirect access arrangements that are unsuitable for regular use by residents, emergency services and refuse collection vehicles. This raises the legitimate concerns regarding highway safety and long-term servicing of the site.
Quickly, which number?
16, that one was, yeah. And then also an objection from number 18 Manland Way. They're objecting to say that the council has refused multiple applications for this site, which actually ultimately 5 have been refused over the years. Every refusal was upheld at appeal, and inspectors concluded that the site is too constrained to accommodate a dwelling without appearing cramped, contrived and out of keeping with the established pattern of development. The most recent refusal, which was in 2017, which must have been the last application that was refused before it was then granted, confirmed that the proposal would result in a cramped and contrived form of development that would be out of keeping with the local pattern of development and would fail to maintain or enhance the character of the locality. Yeah, I mean, ultimately they then continue to sort of object in very similar ways to number 16.
Isn't this though at the bottom of 18 and 16's garden?
Yes.
So how did that happen?
if they have a real problem with it.
I don't know. So that's what I must admit. I was of the assumption that it was an application that's been put in by number 18 Man Way, because if it's ultimately at the bottom of their garden, assuming that that piece of land is owned by somebody different.
There must be two then, surely.
Well, no, it doesn't look, I mean, number 2 is a little 1960s house by the looks of it, and it wouldn't have any extra bits with it.
Does have the question at some point, 18 Manland Way sold.
A piece of their land.
But then I think they went on and sold the house too.
There
You
is
think?
previous.
Potentially, I don't know. I mean, I don't have the history.
It might be something that was left during the development. Sometimes you find small squares and strips of land. I've got one right at the back of my own property, for example, which is still owned by the original developer. It's of no use to man the beast, and the same sort of thing might have happened here, that they've, for some reason, why it wouldn't have been attached to 5 or 16 or 18. I don't know. I'm only theorising, so I may be wrong on the
I mean, I
history.
assumed it was the bottom of their gardens.
Well, just looking at what I put up on the screen here, this relates to this application we're looking at today. But when you look at the plan which related to the application that did receive planning permission, which is this one
That's
here,
both gone.
that is both 16 and 18. But in the new application, which is this one here, it's purely sits on the land of number
Oh.
18. So there must, so 16 and 18. So 16 must have, in the previous application, must have been willing to have allowed a piece of their garden to be utilised in the
But
last
since then, 16's got their bit of garden back.
back, or it was never taken in the first place and it was.
So hang on, that's not, which one? Oh, I see, right. Oh, blimey.
It may be.
Oh, I see. So that's the original.
That was the original when 16.
Yeah, that one was granted permission in 2017 and obviously was never constructed.
It may be 16 or 18 has
something.
changed hands between
Yes.
17
Yes.
now.
Possibly.
That's the most likely
Yeah.
The
explanation.
16 initially was prepared to give up some of its garden at a price. Since then, they sold it
Yeah.
with their garden intact, and the new people in 16 have gone, no.
I think that's the likely scenario.
So, I mean, ultimately, sort of my recommendation was based on the fact that planning permission had been granted, admittedly across two elements of, or two plots of land, 16 and 18. But the proposal we've got here is for a much smaller scale development
Yeah.
than what was granted before.
But there's mention of appeals though, isn't there, in the letter? So
Yeah.
it's granted actually if they've appealed and so.
No.
fully appealed.
This was granted by the district, so there've been a number of varying applications for this plot of, or two plots of land over the years, some of them much larger, one of them was even for a pair of semi-detached properties on there, so they were much larger, but the application that was granted wasn't done on appeal, it was agreed by the district. 2017.
But that decision of the district wasn't appealed.
No, because it didn't need to be, because the permission was granted. You can only go to appeal if you've had a refusal. There isn't the ability for residents to appeal an application being granted. The appeal process is there for the applicant if they feel that they.
Yeah, okay, so then potentially then in 2020, the first image that we're seeing could have been constructed.
Looks like it, yes. That went,
Yes.
but no one did it.
Yes,
So they've got 3 years, haven't they, to put a spade in the ground. So do we know why it wasn't?
Obviously, something happened. And obviously, at some point, 16 was sold.
COVID happened.
2020 COVID, I suppose.
And then also, and then 16 was bought, I think, by other people, and they wanted the bottom of that garden.
I think that the reason planning permission was granted in 17 may, of course, relate to the fact it is good that that was for a 3-bedroom property, I think, wasn't it?
it was, yeah.
Yeah, so which were more in keeping, whereas, and presumably for both sort of elements of the plot of the land, not only for half of it.
Mhm.
So the fact that planning permission was agreed in 2017 doesn't necessarily mean that this would now be subsequently approved by district, because it's a fundamentally quite fundamentally.
It is very different. Yeah.
Different proposal, both in size and positioning and area of land and amenity value and
It's
lots of other
agreed.
things.
It's a very different proposal, but it's a much smaller
Yes, it is.
proposal. You know, when you look at it like that, you know,
And I don't,
It does just look like it's going to be bought by someone and then someone's going to go, oh, I don't know why this isn't 2-story, and then it's going to end up being 2-story, isn't it?
Well,
But on a much-
they would have to go through the planning process and.
Yeah, no, I understand that, but then I can see if, you know, that is a potential, because that's, I think, what most people who would want to live in that area would be looking for.
Equally, if we put in the neighbourhood plan that we encourage more bungalows and an application comes in,
Yeah.
somebody's plot of land.
Tiny
bungalow, and then we say no.
Yeah.
I think we're sort of.
you could argue that that's a great opportunity for somebody who's downsizing.
It is, yeah.
Or even somebody who's starting up on the ladder, so more likely the former, I would say.
And I don't, you know, I think you would point out if we'd had a drop curb concern, if we'd had there's no car parking concern, no tree works. I don't see a planning specific reason to say no to this.
There was a point about access for fire engines and dustbin lorries, isn't there?
Yeah,
Is that,
I think,
is there
that's
anything?
unfounded because the only reason why you'd mention that is if there was any fundamental changes to an access into the
Yeah.
road, but it's.
But if you look at,
It's
if you look at the
parked
road,
there, isn't it?
if you look at the road, they're going to be pulling the car off. That seems to me no more than any other street in Holton.
Any of the other objections that we haven't covered in our discussion?
I think there's a loss of privacy and amenity, but in a bungalow, I don't.
Don't really
quite
see that.
See that.
Because there's no side windows for a start.
The only. They also say about noise, but it's not going to be a family of 5 going in there, is it? It's going to be someone who's wanted to downsize with no garden. So it's going to probably be an elderly person.
I don't think you're going to get Saturday night barbecues and fireworks, are you?
I mean, the only loss of amenity I can think of is if 18 currently doesn't have anything at the end of their garden and is essentially using that land that isn't theirs as an extension of their garden, because
Then that's,
I can't even see from a height perspective, like.
but it doesn't
an
look,
overly
it looks like
garden.
it's a bit of a mess.
Anything else, Heather, that we haven't covered? Because there was quite a long list of things.
Yeah, I think ultimately a number of the concerns that are raised, I'm not quite sure necessarily hold much sort of kind of weight really, to be honest. It's very difficult when you've faced with an application that has been granted in the past to a much larger property to be able to say that something that is much smaller and less dominant is not going to be.
And it sounds like we've said we should
Yeah.
have more bungalows and smaller housing, which this is.
So what do we think?
I completely agree with your comments, no objection to my view.
Going that way?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I mean, it's probably one of those interesting ones that
Yes.
we'll watch, you know, with
I
interest.
do
to see.
appreciate where they come from in that there's big houses all around it and it is a bit of, you know, you've got the skyline of Bonk. But against that, but that's,
Get that elsewhere.
yeah, and there's nothing wrong with having something smaller.
No.
Particularly the kind of housing that we need. It is, and
It is,
and
yes.
recognised in the neighbourhood plan, so I think.
Yeah.
Is Ben happy with that?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, next one is not to 2025 and then 591 doesn't meet the criteria in one consideration. The next one does, 5/2025 1638. Okay, single part 2-story rear extension, single story side, single attached garage side, single story front entrance extension with open porch, bay windows with front. Installation to openings, 11 Woodend Hill, Parsenden.
Okay, the property sits on a good sized plot and currently presents as wide and shallow, with the properties either side extending further forwards and rearwards. The road is made up of a selection of styles and size properties, many of which have been enlarged. This proposal is looking to expand the footprint to the boundary of number 9 with a garage and almost with number 9 with a garage and almost the boundary of number 13 at ground floor level to create a utility room, but retaining 1 metre gap. The ground floor level, a rear extension fully across the rear is proposed which extends marginally beyond the rear building line of number 9, but in line with number 13. At first floor, 2 rear gabled extensions are proposed to create 2 bedrooms. This will total 5 bedrooms. Existing bedrooms are to be reconfigured to create en-suites and a dressing room. Proposed design appears to be in keeping with the style of other properties in the street. There is no extending to the sides at first floor level, just at ground floor, therefore reducing any impact on the neighbouring properties. The 45-degree visibility zones do not appear to be impacted. The ridge height is not increasing. There is ample parking provision on the frontage and the addition of a single garage. There are no tree works and it's not conservation area, and I said to consider no objection.
And the houses either side are equally.
Assuming
Valid.
no complaints.
No, nothing for that one. Everyone has reached this?
Yeah.
I think it's one of the few in the street that hasn't had.
Yes.
Moving on then. 5/20/25/1670, Harpenden Milton Rural. 303 Luton Road, Harpenden, Hertfordshire.
Okay, the proposal is looking to demolish the single garage to the side and extend to 2-storey level. It is also proposed to extend to 2-storey level over the footprint of the existing single-storey extension on the other side. A 2-storey rear extension across the full width is also proposed to expand the ground floor open plan living accommodation and to create an additional bedroom, which will be 4 in total, and an ensuite and wardrobe. The rear extension projects rearwards to be in line with the neighbouring properties, building lines, both of which appear to have extended to. The ridge height is increasing by approximately 800 millimetres, although there is no accommodation proposed in the roof space and does not create an imbalance in the street scene due to the positioning and designing of the neighbouring properties. Despite the loss of garage, there's parking provision for at least 3 cars on the frontage, not conservation area, and no tree lights are proposed. I say consider no objection.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Complications because it's an attached garage?
No, okay, don't think so. Right, no. Okay, happy?
Yeah.
Happy with that? Okay.
Next, 2 applications being certainly required for consideration as committee. Moving on to 5/20/25/1681, Harpenden South, 3 Ravenscroft, Harpenden, Hertfordshire.
Okay, property sits much further forward on the plot in relation to number 2 with a linked single garage between. Proposal is to demolish the existing garage and extend to 2-floor level to the side, but creating a 1 metre gap down the boundary with number 2, wrapping around to the full width of the rear at ground floor and partially at first floor level. The extensions will replace the garage with a smaller single garage which appears to be incapable of accommodating a car, a guest bedroom and a shower room, along with utility and expansion of the sitting area at ground floor, and creation of a 4th bedroom with ensuite and dressing area at first floor level. With the guest bedroom, there will be 5 bedrooms across the property. Right a garage and 2 parking spaces depicted in the drawings. I believe that just 2 parking spaces are usable. The 45 degrees visibility zone for number 2 and number 4 Ravenscroft have been shown as not impeded. However, the additional forward bulk and massing may present an unacceptable loss of amenity on number 2 and lead to a bulky appearance in the street scene, given the forward positioning on the plot. No tree works and not conservation area. And I've suggested consider express concern that the proposed side extensions, given the forward positioning on the plot of the host dwelling, may cause an unacceptable loss of amenity on number 2 Ravenscroft and create an overly dominant appearance in the street scene. Policy ESD2 of the neighbourhood plan and policy 69 and 72 of the district plan affairs.
Have we had any objections?
There are no.
Didn't we have something like this? Similar in a similar place. In the in this design of having the. Because I think one house is slightly higher, because they're going down a hill. And then, and the garage, and I just. Trying to think, I'm sure there was something, a similar design of house, and there was a similar kind of extension, and I don't know what we decided on it.
That was the last, or whenever it was, I subbed at that, and I can remember that. And
I must admit, I can't recall.
But it was very similar setup,
very
wasn't
similar
it?
setup and a very similar looking type of house.
Yes. And it's that whole thing of, it's quite a bit forward, and so you go back and you're not in anyone's line. Yeah,
See, where I am with this one, is I think a lot of the things that we are in your notes, I kind of agree with, but I don't think they're any different as a consequence of this application to what's already there.
Right,
So
okay.
when I kind of had a look and thought about it a bit, I wondered why we're expressing concern as opposed to saying we have no objection subject to no loss of amenity, because ultimately what we're concerned about is the potential for loss of amenity, but without a concern expressed by the neighbours and without really it seeming to me, especially looking at this picture, that I mean, it's already beyond the forward line. There
Yeah.
already is a meter drop down gap. You know, we can't fundamentally change the property that's there. And I'm not sure that the application fundamentally does. So unless there's something about it that I've missed, I'm inclined to suggest no objection subject to no loss of amenity.
I think it was kind of also that it was the additional bulk, because when you sort of look here at the top,
It would be chunky.
it's what sort of kind of currently is visible on the side elevation to what is proposed. There is quite a substantial addition
Which is why I wanted,
to it.
I'm a bit surprised there haven't been objections.
Yeah. Sometimes people are too fearful, I think, but
Yeah.
you can only go on what's available for us to see.
and the next house down is quite squeeched, isn't it?
This seems to be a feature of the road, to be honest.
So I feel a little bit with this one that where at the front, there's the bulk, and it definitely feels that in the picture. At the back, their garden is sort of suffering from the bulk, if you like.
Yeah.
So it's just how the houses are situated. They're just staggered, aren't
Yeah.
they?
Mm.
And I think that if they were looking to extend to the line where the front door used to be, I can see they put a porch on, but where the front door used to be, if they were asking for an extension that covered the whole of the side of the house, I would be a lot more concerned about the bulk, and I think that that would quite clearly then have lots of amenity. You know, you wouldn't be able to see around to reverse your car out and those
Yeah.
sorts of things. I think it could end up being dangerous. But I think that as they're going up from the garage line,
Which is there already.
which is there already, I do wonder whether that is more reasonable.
Because I suppose
I am concerned about the size of that garage though, and I wonder why they have said that they're going to use that as a garage. And I mean,
People before us in our current house, adapted the garage, so half of it's been incorporated into what is now family room. We're left with a smaller, what looks like a garage, but actually it's far too small to get a car in. But it is a useful front store, and I think a lot of people
Yeah.
use their garages as a, a means of store.
Well, the 1960s houses, the garages are just too small.
But that's
You
right.
cannot actually get a modern car in.
I mean, I certainly can't go, put my car into mine, for example.
Well, you probably could, but you couldn't then.
But I
open
couldn't get
doors
out,
because
yes, that would be a
it's
first thing,
draw
because I
back
couldn't
on
get
it.
out.
Yeah.
So, and are they actually saying that they're intending to use it as a garage, or just, that was obviously on the plan?
it's called a garage on the plans.
Assuming they're going to use it as a garage, does it?
No.
Because you might use it to store
Yeah.
the lawn, and there isn't the lawn, is that they're not in the front, but, you know, that's.
like with bikes and bins and.
All sorts of things been going to people's garages now, and they aren't usually
I
cars.
think they're having to call it garage because of it's becoming a 5-bedroom property, so they're needing.
That's another,
Right,
then that's
that's-
another
yeah.
parking space, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
I don't see parking bin.
I think there's obviously no intention to use that as a garage.
I actually think the parking issue is a stronger point than the bulk thing. Because I think the other thing about the bulk thing, in relation to your point, I think you're actually right, because if they were extending out there, you could kind of look at this application and go, it's taking the mickey a little bit, but I don't know what plausibly else could be done to develop this property other than extending above the garage.
Okay, so which way? would we
Which
like
way
to
do you
go?
want to go?
Kind of, if there's a strong feeling, we should just go with that.
Did you want to do no objections subject to no loss of amenity to number 2?
That's what we're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Agreed. Right. Next item doesn't meet the criteria, so we move on to 5/2025, 167. Waiting early, what's the investing in it? Yeah.
Okay.
Check on ideas then.
Okay, this property is the locally listed gatehouse property which sits next to Parkwood Community Hall and just beyond the entrance gates to Rockhamsted Park. The site is currently extremely overgrown with derelict garage buildings in the garden and in need of extensive modernisation. This committee reviewed the previously refused application earlier this year and broadly expressed concerns over the materials not being in keeping with the host dwelling nor with the surroundings. Concerns were also expressed over the proposed 1.8 metre brick boundary wall with sliding gate, which would remove the current openness of this area at the entrance of Rockhamsted Park. The LPA refused the application on these grounds, in addition to the excessive size and bulk of the proposed extension, concern over impact on the surrounding trees and lack of detail on the vehicular movements to and from the site and no bat survey. This new application attempts to address these reasons for refusal by reducing the extension in terms of depth and length, changing the roof from flat to slate pitched, which relates to the materials used on the adjacent Parkwood Community Hall. And the previously proposed zinc cladding is replaced with a brick plinth to match the house and cement-based timber effect cladding boards. The boundary wall has been set back by 650 millimetres from the curb, and railings have been included between the brick piers to create a sense of openness. A line of Carpinus betulus trees have been added on the private road in front of the proposed brick wall. The electric gate is now to be open railing design, which will further add to the openness of the area. An agricultural assessment and bat survey have also been provided. Overall, I believe these changes to the refused application are much improved and address the concerns raised by this committee. Property sits in the Harpenden Conservation Area with Parkwood Community Hall and number 25 Lowton Road, which is located opposite across the Park Access Drive, also being locally listed. And I've said at this point in time, consider no objections subject to the previous reasons for refusal being fully addressed. Now, there are actually two letters or comments of support actually online. One of them, I believe, from like a local resident, probably walks past the property quite regularly and says, I wish to express my full support for this planning application. The small cottage at the park's entrance is a hugely significant landmark for Harpenden as it forms the face of one of the town's most important sites. Its dilapidated appearance over the last 20 years due to neglect has been a major disappointment. Having viewed the detailed plans, I believe they are 100% respectful of the cottage. They completely honour its essence, and I'm genuinely looking forward to seeing the building restored and shining brightly once again. But most importantly, there is actually the Conservation Area Officer's comments online as well. And just very briefly to kind of highlight salient points from that is that this revision of the extension and its roof form would result in an extension that would be read as an addition to the original dwelling. This change to the design is such that the extension will no longer compete with the host dwelling and the overall architectural integrity of this host building. The decoration of the roof, including the barge boards and finials, would continue to contribute to the special interest of this locally listed building and the character and appearance of this part of the conservation area. The separation between the new pitched roof section and the gable of the original building would allow for an appreciation of the decorative brickwork of the property. Proposed boundary treatment is more in keeping with the historic arrangement and will preserve the open and verdant character of the area and its visually permeable boundary treatment. This revised proposal has overcome previous heritage concerns, and my conclusion is the proposal will preserve the special interest of this locally listed building, the character and appearance of this part of the conservation area.
Before anything else, can we
Yeah.
just check that the highways concern about vehicle access is no longer a problem?
So highways haven't commented from what I can see on there at this point in time, but I would imagine that they have provided additional information that details the display. That was, I think, that was their concerns, was that there wasn't any details of how they were going to have the movements of the vehicles. But yeah, there isn't a highways comment online yet.
I've got to say, I'm delighted that we've got here an application taken on board the reasons for refusal and has obviously made every effort to address them.
Yeah.
And has come up with a plan which is, far more in keeping and nobody would be more delighted than me than if something is done with the current eyesore
Yes.
that sits right outside the entrance of the park.
Mm.
So, yeah, I certainly support it.
To your point, Sam, I have seen a car next to the building. I mean, it's just as old and sadly dilapidated as the cottage itself, but there's obviously been in the past a car coming and
Yeah,
going,
so there
so,
was, the concern was they were putting a plaid fencing
yeah.
right against the pavement, which would have stopped access for
Mm,
various emergency services vehicles. This is a much better application. Still not hugely fond of the fact they're having railing around the whole property, but I think it's fair enough to an extent.
I
I
think
think considering where it is, I think considering where it is, it's very understandable.
I agree.
Mm.
I think just to have it open the way it is at the moment.
Just
I'm-
rubbish.
I think,
And
yeah,
you've got no and privacy and everything, so.
I think also got to say, it really does take into account everything that was discussed at the previous meeting, so
It does, it really does.
in that respect, it's.
All the objections have been
Yeah.
looked and addressed.
I think-
Very hard to address them.
The conservation area officer's statement is quite key.
Yeah.
To be honest, if they're in favour, and ultimately it was really their main concerns last time where it was
Yeah.
raised.
Would it be possible to add to the commentary like a comma, particularly with respect to previous concerns of highways? Because that's the only thing here which I think we don't know specifically. And you know, if highways were concerned,
Why would there be, there's no cars going up past it, that bit of the house. The bit where their little car is. There,
For a
there's,
state that they definitely want.
you turn it, nobody turns in between those gates.
not highways.
So I mean,
I can't tell you why, but if highways had a concern before and it was a part of
It's
the
an
reason.
emergency vehicle, isn't
Emergency
it, and then getting.
So highways did have a
I think it's
concern.
also people coming the other way as well, you know, like emergency vehicles got in, people coming out, so the highways expressed significant concerns about the plan, which was one of the things we discussed at the previous meeting, so subject to that being filled out. On the basis of this application, I'd be happy to like recommend it to the lead planning authority, but I would like to flag that point because I think it's significant.
Just going to be absolutely sure that there wasn't any comment in there. Oh, yes, there is. There we go. Be able to answer it straight away. It might be that I didn't do anything about it because they weren't objecting. Let's have a little read. The highways say, okay, so ultimately the key wording here is that Hertfordshire County Council as Highways Authority does not wish to restrict the grant of permission subject to the following conditions, which is a standard response. So they have no concern, they're happy.
Fine.
I probably didn't print it off because it wasn't an objection.
Okay, so highways is happy, are we happy?
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah,
Lovely.
looking forward to seeing that one.
It's definitely improved the look of the park, yeah. The next item, 1 doesn't meet our criteria, so we move on to I 2025-1728, 31 Harrisbrook Road.
Okay, the proposal is looking to replace existing garage with a two-stall extension over the footprint of the existing garage, ground floor level, wrapping around to the rear to create further living accommodation. At first floor, it's proposed to extend over the new ground floor elements, but only to be in line with the existing first floor rear building line. Extension to the existing roof space accommodation is also proposed, although the ridge height is not increasing. The roof line above the extension is subservient to the main roof line. Number 33 Harrisbrook Road is positioned slightly further back on the plot, with their rear building line extending much further back than is proposed in this application. The road is made up of a selection of styles and size properties, a few which have a similar frontage to what is proposed. There appears to be parking provision with frontage for 3 to 4 cars, not conservation area, and I've said consider no objection subject to no loss of immediate number 33 Harrisbrook Road, policy ESD2 of the member plan, and policy 72 of the district plan repairs. No. What's this one? You happy with that one?
Yeah.
So I'm just having a quick look at the pictures, yeah. Yes, thank you, yes.
Okay. Thank you. Applications do not meet the criteria for consideration by us, so we move on to 5/2025/1707. 2 Townsend Lane.
Okay, this application is looking to extend the first floor partially over the footprint of the existing ground floor element, to expand existing bedrooms and enabling reconfiguration of the first floor rooms along with the addition of a fifth bedroom and ensuite in the roof space. The ridge height is increasing by 1 metre. This appears to be in line with the ridge height of number 4 Townsend Lane, and other properties in the streets are much higher. There are dormers proposed at the front and rear, although they are relatively small and do not overly dominate in the roof form. And so are not overly dominant in the roof form. The footprint on 4 Townsend Lane appears to be larger than the application property, and to the other side is the rear garden number 1 Atkins Close, therefore reducing or removing any impact on them. Proposals appear to be in keeping with the host dwelling and the surrounding area, which is in the conservation area. I'll say consider no objections, subject to the compliance with policy 85 of the district plan. There is actually a letter of objection online from number 1 Atkins Close. They state that we offer comments under the category of potential loss of light, overshadowing or overlooking, specifically on the potential of overlooking. The revised plans do not specify that the windows for the elevations mentioned above shall be glazed in obscure glass and shall be non-opening and shall not be altered to clear glass without the prior written approval of the local planning authority. We are objecting to the omission on the plans that the window will be created in the first. So the window will be created in the first floor flank elevation facing towards number 1 Atkins Close shall be glazed in obscure glass and shall be non-opening. Request that the planning condition be repeated for this new application decision. Also on the new application, the rear dormer window closest to number 1 Atkins Close is a lot closer than the nearest skylight on the previous plans. This dormer will give a 180-degree view, including into our bedroom windows. We object to the potential overlooking and loss of privacy. So they're making reference to the planning application that was approved, obviously in 2023, for something that's very, very similar to what's proposed here, but ultimately the only difference is that there are dormer windows in this one as opposed to skylights. And in answer to their kind of question or observation relating to the obscure glass, it goes to a bathroom. So despite it not stating it's going to have obscure glaze, it will have. Yeah. And the positioning of the dormer windows, difficult to say, but I would be surprised to think that they would have the ability to view directly into number 1 Atkins Close.
Number 1 is lower than that one as well, so it really is overlooking. It is, and going up by 1 metre, that's going to be a hell of a house looming over number 1's garden.
So planning permission has already been granted for something that's very, very similar. So I think that their grounds for concern relates to the obscure glaze on the window on the side and to the potential of overlooking from this dormer as being, or there's a pair of dormers that are added at the rear, but being lower down, it would mean actually looking out of a dormer window, you're less likely
Okay.
to be able to see into windows that are lower down as opposed to a property that is higher up. But
I'm all right with your comments.
I mean, I can add our magic wording of subject to no loss of immunity to number 1 Atkins Close.
Yeah.
Yes, I think with that.
Yes.
It's difficult because obviously a case officer has the luxury of being able to do a site visit, whereas I just have to do everything from the drawings that I did.
I do know about sort of bit of the road.
There's a lot of houses have been extended similarly.
That, yeah, I have. It's just that. Yeah,
It's not this approach, you're right, it's
that bit down there where they garden that, and then they're going to have this huge house.
It's the picture on the very last page of our bundle. It's on the bottom row. First one and the third one. It's those images that make it look significantly bigger, whether that's just.
Well, it is, it's a metre higher, isn't it?
In the third one along, you've got 3 dormer windows at the back there. And a pair at the front. I don't know how that compares with what they've had permission
So
for.
I did keep actually, so I did, keep it to hand.
Does suddenly look quite a bit bigger.
Well, how it works with,
I mean, you know.
it's lots of light on number one.
This was what was granted before in 2023.
That is.
Yeah,
Oh, so those images are identical.
So
Yeah.
that was.
So the
approved by
only
LPA
difference-
Previously.
yeah, yeah. So the only difference is that they've changed the rear windows at the back from being skylight sort of Veluxes to be dormers.
But the light question's probably not relevant on that one. It's more the visibility.
Yeah, that's true.
And also I think that we should add a point about subject to loss of immunity, but I don't think
Yeah.
it's sufficient to express concern is where I land on that.
Yeah.
Especially as you said, that it has gone through.
It's already got permission.
Happy with that addition?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Right, that brings us to the end of applications and appeals,
No appeals, no,
reservation order tree works.
nothing of any note, no.
St Albans District Council decisions, anything there you wish to?
Nothing that actually is on these lists, but I was made aware yesterday actually that the application that I think this committee looked at last time, if not the time before, which was for the bin store at Coleridge Court, has been granted. So I was
Very
advised
glad to
with
hear.
that. I know that that was one of those applications that we were keen to keep track of.
Millen's cameo.
Tree works, technical applications, anything there?
No, nothing, no, not of any
Okay,
major notes.
and then the date of the next meeting will be Tuesday, the 11th of November. Absolutely.
Well, indeed.
Okay then, right, there's nothing else anybody wishes to read?
No, thank you.
I declare the meeting closed at 8:19.